we've been doing a few of these virtual Fearless Caregiver conferences around the country. Last one just now in Broward and one in New Haven. And I will tell you, the energy, the enthusiasm, the questions, the expert advice, everything is similar to anybody who's ever been to our in-person events, except virtual hugs don't work as well as real hugs. So, and the food, well, that's up to you. But we are just thrilled that you're joining us again for this this year's event. My name is Gary Barg. I'm a caregiver, but I'm also the author of the books, The Fearless Caregiver, Caregiving Ties That Bind, and our new book about caregiving during COVID, You Are Not Alone. What I find interesting, and caregivers have found interesting about that book, is it's actually by you. The book is filled with the advice, the information, the support that family caregivers have told us at 287 events in 45 cities in 27 states, including some of you guys. And we knew that this last year we couldn't go around and be with anybody and join anybody in person, which was, you know, sad for all of us, obviously. But we also wanted to make sure that advice and the wisdom that's shared at the Fearless Caregiver conferences was still able to be shared. And we call it conference in your living room. So that's kind of fun. Once again, I want to thank my amazing group of panelists, sponsors, community partners who made today possible. Thanks to Ezra Katz, Brian Zippin, and the Tech Wonderkins at Zippin Media for making this Zoom stuff happen. Anybody who knows me knows that my technology level has stopped somewhere about mimeograph. Maybe it doesn't smell like anything. It's not a communication vehicle. And though I think over this last year, I've unfortunately developed a new malady called Zoom poisoning. But Ezra and his gang do a wonderful job at keeping it lively online and as good as in person. Speaking of which, when you join us for our in-person events, which will hopefully start again soon, obviously you raise your hand, I come running over, we have a conversation between the experts in the audience, which is you, the CEOs of Caring for Your Loved One, Inc., the family caregivers, and the experts on the panel, who half of them at least are also family caregivers. So it's a room full of experts in caregiving. That's the easy part. Here in this virtual world, it's just as easy. If you have any question at any time of any panelist, what I want you to do, or of each other, is go to the Q&A at the bottom. You see the Q&A, and stick a Q in and we'll lay it. Or go to chat, and our partners and our panelists will be putting their information, their contact information in the chat part, so you can follow up with them. Then after the event, maybe next week, we'll do a recap video of everything that you've seen with more contact information. So, you know, similar to the in-person event, we're making sure that there's a lot of hand-holding going on. And also anybody who's been to the in-person events knows that I firmly believe the way that we successfully handle the job that we're being called upon to do as family caregivers is to actually take on a new job role. And this job role is what we call being a fearless caregiver. Fearless caregiver understands you have a job to do that's just as important as any other member of your loved one's care team, of which you are really the manager. And you're no less important than the case manager, the therapist, and yeah, even the doctor. You all have jobs to do. The caregivers, the fearless caregivers' job is to learn all we can about what our loved one's going through, make sure our loved one's medical partners learn all they can about what is happening throughout the day with your loved one, and bring the human face of your loved one to the healthcare system. You know, we also found that there are similar traits or common traits of family caregivers, because I know a lot of times we say we're not being listened to. The healthcare system's not understanding us, they're not listening to us. But we have found some similar traits of caregivers, and we've learned this from you at the events, that do get listened to, that do get respected, that do get heard. And first, we just have to believe we can make a difference. We have to believe that we're an equal member of our loved one's care team and that our voice matters. Second, you have to see our role in caring for our loved ones' care as being just as important as any of the professional members of your loved one's care team. And third, you got to ask questions. You ask lots of questions, and you never stop until you get a clear and concise answer from anybody, anywhere, anyhow, because your questions are the secret sauce to successful caregiving, to fearless caregiving. And you know, of course, if you've heard me say this a bunch of times, the very first step you have to do when you're a fearless caregiver is to care for yourself. Now, I hope people haven't clicked off on me at this point, because you're probably just saying, I don't have time to care for me. Well, I have 36 hours a day, I'm caring for my loved one. I don't know what you're talking about. And my answer to you is, who's going to step in and care for you and your loved one when you fall apart due to ill health for not caring for yourself? Because caring for yourself is the most important part to being a successful caregiver to your loved one. During COVID, it's really important to know that so many of the community organizations that have served us so well in regular time, I don't say normal, are still there. They're still there. You'll meet them on this panel. You'll meet them in this conversation. You'll make sure that we don't isolate ourselves, even if sometimes it has to be done by the phone or through Zoom. These organizations are still desperate, looking to reach out and care for you. Because, see, I always say that caregiving is national in implication and local in application. Nationally, you need to know who your partners are, who can help you from a distance. You have to know what's going on in DC. You have to know what's going on in Tallahassee, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. But locally, it's the application. You have to know who those local services and supports, the elder care. If I told you who the elder care attorney, a great elder care attorney in Peoria or Pittsburgh or Palm Springs, it might be neat to know about, but it's not helping you in Palm Beach County. So we need to reach out as family caregivers to our local partners. And now, as life hopefully gets quickly back to safer and more shared experience, I don't say normal, it's important to remember to stay socially distanced, keep your health, keep your loved one's health, challenge the professionals that you run across who are there to support your loved ones, and mask, mask, mask. So let me get out of your way and get to the experts. First, I want to tell you that we're really pleased, as in the in-person events, that we'll be presenting one ageless innovation, Joy for All animatronic pet. And if you know about these are wonderful. They're wonderful stress relievers for your loved one. They're wonderful stress relievers for yourself. To an attendee. At the end of the day, we're going to take a look at all the attendees, do a random draw, and then make the announcement to that attendee, because we want to keep your privacy. We're not going to do a public drawing. And one of you will go home with this amazing animatronic pet for your loved one. And if you've seen the videos or you've talked to caregivers who have had these, it's really quite terrific how they support your loved one and keep them calm. Love is everything, and giving love for people with cognitive issues is as important as receiving love. Now, as it has been my pleasure to have done at so many in-person events, 18 so far in Palm Beach County, I'd like to introduce you to the Director of Communications at the Area Agency on Aging of Palm Beach and Treasure Coast, Inc., my dear friend, Trish Ernst.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and a huge huge virtual hug. It's been way too long since I've seen you, Gary. We are the Area Agency on Aging. We are here to serve seniors. We are designated by the federal government and the Department of Elder Affairs to be the official gateway to services for seniors. So just a brief introduction of who we are, and you're going to meet a couple of my coworkers on the panel today. So first of all, I want to say that my dear friend Gary is the person who probably gave me the biggest promotion of my life. Gary has known me through my caregiving years, not all that long ago actually, but I was a caregiver for both my mom and my dad. My husband and I relocated, they relocated to come to be close to us. And we were caregivers for about 5 to 7 years. And through that time, I have to say that being a part of the Fearless Caregiver conferences was really critical. I always shared with Gary, I felt that every time I came away with some incredible gems, and they really were treasures that I carried with me. So I carried them during my promotion, and my promotion that Gary gave me was that I was CEO of the caregiving team for both my parents. And he's right, it can be intimidating. You have doctors, you have a lot of input coming from a lot of directions, and it comes at a time when you're fragile, so you're maybe not as strong as you would typically be. So to have the supports and to have the gems and to have that promotion of being CEO does give you a different perspective. And I think I was able to handle things better, even in very emotional times. So I personally am enormously grateful to be a part of this event and to have been in the past. They really are great days. And I do miss seeing smiles. I do miss seeing conversations and giving the hugs. But to Gary's point, hopefully that will happen. As vaccinations increase, I'm proud to say I'm 2 shots in 2 weeks. So I am very, very pleased about that. I also have Gary's permission to give a little promo for one of our programs at the Area Agency on Aging. It is a 6-week workshop conducted virtually at this point by our Healthy Living Center. And it's called Powerful Tools for Caregivers. It's 1 hour on Wednesday afternoons for 6 weeks, beginning May 19th. And if you are at all interested or know of someone who's a caregiver for whom it might be beneficial, please call our helpline, and we will at some point have that all over the place. If you're writing it down, I'll give it to you now, and I'm sure Diana will give it to you later, but it is 866-684-5885, and just ask for the workshop or for Healthy Living or anyone who can get you in touch with Powerful Tools. It really is a great program. I wish that I had it. We were not offering it at the time when I was going through the caregiving years, but the testimonials and feedback are incredibly good. So on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging, I welcome everyone, even though I can't see you. But I welcome you. I hope you have a great day today here at the conference, and probably from the comfort of, yes, your living room and maybe with a cat on your lap. So it does have, or a puppy in Gary's case, it does have some advantages, even though we can't connect quite as closely. So Gary, thank you as always for having me, for allowing me to share just a little bit. and you're a great and wonderful partner, and the conferences are just phenomenal. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Trish. And before you go, I know that you will appreciate this, that although you are and truly one of our first noble CEOs of Caring for Your Loved One, Inc., everybody who is a family caregiver, every caregiver here is also a CEO for caring for their loved one, Inc. So I know you'd be happy to share that designation with, that many people.
Well, lots of people. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
So now it is my honor and privilege to introduce you to our first panel of experts. And if they can sign in, please. Dun, 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 dun. Just push the little buttons. Dun, dun. And there's Matt. Hello, Matt. And here you go. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Oh, yay, I got my panel. This is terrific. So again, if you've been with us in person, you understand this, but this is about, we call this a no PowerPoint, no speechifying, no pontificating zone. Although all these are amazing, wonderful expert panelists, we all, and everybody will agree, want to hear from you. What are your challenges? What are your problems? What can we do to serve you? So I always say to the panelists, it's as if you're sitting with just one family across the table, but there's a whole bunch of other families. And anytime you have any question of any panelist, hit the Q&A and I will share your information. So let's get to it. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Who are you? What are you doing? How come you have my favorite word behind you? Groovy, man. And well, thank you for that, because I say groovy and my nieces roll their eyes. So thank you.
Understood. My name's Matt Monroe, and I'm one of the founders of Groovy Tech. And what Groovy Tech does is help folks from all generations become more comfortable using their smartphones, tablets, and computers. So think of personal training, think of a personal trainer for fitness, but apply that to personal technology, and you have a pretty good handle on our service. Obviously, many things have become much more essential from a technology adoption perspective over the past, 12 to 18 months. And we've been really privileged to be able to help a lot of folks, caregivers and everybody, help kind of navigate this new kind of forced transition into the digital space, I'd say. So I believe that we're sitting in the middle. We're living in the midst of the digital revolution, which I think will have, significant impact on everything that happens in our day-to-day lives. Think much like the Industrial Revolution changed things. And we really want to work with seniors and folks to make sure that they don't feel left behind and that they're able to navigate this new world. And oftentimes just having a patient and respectful resource working side by side with them can really kind of shorten that bridge and really lead to some special time. So the name of the company is Groovy Tech. We have an office in Palm Beach Gardens. And we're just helping people every day, in trying to kind of understand the roadways of this new digital world that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think that because this is how we're communicating more than not, it's so important to have a partner like you who understands, where a person is with their technical capabilities at the moment, and pairs us with the right equipment to make sure that we stay involved. We don't isolate. We make sure that we use whatever's out there to our best advantage, and also that is done respectfully. I love that. I think that you guys do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Jack.
Sure.
What's up, Jack?
Well, do you want me to tell about myself?
Tell me, see, one of the reasons that I'm thrilled you're here is that we've reviewed and we've interviewed about the sudden death checklist. And
Okay.
when you're a caregiver, you are the manager of this organization. Even if you don't run a company per se, this is the most important organization to run. And a lot of times it just comes right up on you. You know, the sudden death of your loved one who was managing the family business or managing the family. And now what do you do? So I'd love you to share some of that with us.
Okay. So I'm a management consultant, and I've been doing it for over 30 years. And I work with family businesses, and I've been doing that forever. And one of the things that a management consultant wants to have is a system, and because they can work a system. And in the company setting, we have the business system is the board of directors with a CEO. Then the management reports to that board, and below that, the support staff are reporting to the managers. And the customer is the key focus of a company. In the case of a family business, the family systems, if you guys are well knowledgeable about family systems, is you know that one of the key elements of success in a family to avoid family conflict is to create a family council. In fact, there are laws in many states, including California and Florida, that encourage the use of family councils. And so what's a family council? If you don't know, it has to do with, you have to have a CEO, and you have to have a family support group. And instead of a customer, you have the loved one or loved ones. And so now what tools can we use? Well, back in the 90s, I had clients that had all of a sudden a problem, and they did not know how to handle a funeral. And so they didn't, the parents did not prepare the kids for any of this. And the kids are sitting there struggling with typically the mom. What do we do here? How can we help you? You know, picking a casket when you got 2 days to do it is not a really good way of doing things. And so I created this checklist that started off as a Lotus 1, 2, 3 spreadsheet, and is now a published book of 120 pages. And you say, well, what's in there? And it says it's the system. It's the system that says, if you want to avoid conflicts for emergencies that happen, you've got to have a checklist. So I created this checklist. Okay, and I'll give you an example of how it works. I got invited into a family business back in December. And they weren't interested in any family succession on the business side because everybody was okay until a doctor told one of the brothers, who was an owner, says, by the way, you're on a short leash of time here, man, because you've got some health issues that are so serious. We're going to tell you you can't survive 5 years unless you do something. In the meantime, they're sitting there going, what do we do? So they're worried about the business, not so much the family. And because all the elements are in the business. So I took out the checklist and started giving it to all the kids, all the nieces and nephews. It says, this is what we're going to be running through in the next 6 months, is preparing your family and the company for the loss. So I have this tool that now allows you to help them through difficult discussions. And that's the key. And if there's conflict, you can now manage the conflict because you have a checklist that you can work with. Did I cover it okay for you so far? I don't want to take over the computer.
You've done good. You know, it's the CEO of Caring for Your Loved One Inc. It's creating a business plan for the possibilities of what might happen when you become a caregiver. And without that, you're not running your caregiving as effectively as you can. You don't want to get surprised, you know, that somebody passes and you haven't figured out what to do. Or when Dad passed, we knew it was coming, and we went to a local funeral home and got pre-need and sat there, and Mom had a very comfortable conversation with him, you know, as well as it could be. And he passed 3 weeks later in the hospital. And I said to the hospital, what do I do? And they said, it's all handled. And it was all handled. And that's, you know, a checklist item, I think, that caregivers, you know, we don't want to think about, but we don't want to run up against suddenly, and then try to figure out what's going on with that aspect of our loved ones, care, with the stress and the pain and the suffering that goes on
Gary,
when a loved one passes.
Gary, so here's what happened. So the brother that's sick is married for 40 some odd years to a woman who is caretaking her father. And so now she's caretaking her husband. And she's managing her children's stress, who are now worried, what can they do? What are they supposed to do? So mom is literally under the gun. And then just to add another more complexity, the other brother, because they were partners, just found out he's got another kind of illness with a deadline. So now we're trying to form the family council in order to help get this thing started. It's crazy.
No, I love that. We'll get into family councils a little later too, I think. Ms. Bruno, it's nice to see you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So yes, my name is Diana Bruno. I am at the Air Agency on Aging. I am the helpline manager, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Our mission is to promote, support, and advocate for the independence, dignity, and well-being of seniors, adults with disability, and those who care for them. So you, caregivers. We serve 5 counties. In Florida, it is Indian River County, Okeechobee, St. Lucie County, Martin County, and all of Palm Beach County. Our helpline, and I will repeat the number, write it down. It's very important for you as a caregiver to have it. It is 866-684-5885. Our helpline is the gateway to publicly funded services for seniors, such as help with in-home services, adult daycare, home delivered meals, respite care services, transportation, medical supplies. Some in-home services can include companionship, chore, homemaker, personal care, the emergency alert button, in-home respite, and much more. We also provide a private pay option. So we are also the gateway to the statewide Medicaid long-term care program, which provides community-based services and financial assistance to pay for an assisted living. Our team, our INR specialist, information and referral specialist, are here to take phone calls during business hours. We have staff that speak English, Spanish, and Creole, but we are able to get other languages if needed. So that's who we are.
Thank you, Diana. It's funny, you said gateway, and I know in the in-person events, I usually do this. I always say that when I introduce Trish, I say, the gateway to caregiving in your community is the Area Agency on Aging, the help through the helpline. If they don't have the answer, they'll find the answer. They'll know someone who has the answer. It's the way you connect. And so I think that if anybody hasn't called you guys, they need to have that number in their back pocket for when they need it. So thank you for everything you do for Palm Beach County caregivers.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Matt, I was thinking, and I think I'm going to ask people to put in the Q&A or in the chat, how are people now, or through COVID, through the potential isolation, how are we mostly communicating? Is it FaceTime? It's not mimeograph, so I'm out. Is it through video? Is it through chat? Is it through Zoom? I'd like people to respond to me. How you communicate? What's the vehicle you communicate most and maybe best with? And maybe Matt has some better ideas.
I will say, just as we get the group moving on that, I will say that the crazy thing that we've learned in the past, 5 years working in this environment is that it's everybody's phone or computer is essentially as unique as your fingerprint. So if you look at technology tools that are developed by the larger companies and applications, they're all basically serving long-term human needs. So you can go to Maslow, you can look at anything, however you want to view it, it's essentially just a new version of something that previously existed. So email, Pony Express, like there was always a need to do this or that, Uber's a new version of this, so it all kind of is just a different iteration of it. And ultimately we feel that it comes down to personal preference, and people kind of are comfortable with the devices that they've used and the programs that support those. So if you're, we find that if somebody's big on Apple and they're happy with the Apple, using that stuff, then they're more prone to use FaceTime, just because that's built into their devices and it's of that. But there really isn't, vast differences between Skype or FaceTime or Zoom or whatever it is. It just becomes what's kind of the personal preference. And what we like to do is look more at the core issues of what someone's trying to accomplish, and then help them kind of put together an environment that would play well with each other. It's really unfortunate. A lot of times people are, go to get either people gift folks technology devices, or they go to get them and they only kind of know half the story on it. And then they may come back and it's not compatible with something they already have. We oftentimes go to, the Best Buys of the world with our clients to make sure that, they come out with a functional Honda as opposed to a Lamborghini, which they'll never open up on the open road. And just not being incredibly comfortable in those environments, oftentimes people end up with kind of a misdiagnosis of what they need to be able to do that. So we see a ton of people. Obviously, there's been a huge push and adoption of Zoom as a platform. They kind of caught Zoom flat-footed, frankly. Like when it all happened, they weren't built to scale to the point that they were getting used, but it all of a sudden kind of became part of the vernacular. Oh, just Zoom, or just do this or that. I think that that's where we really, 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 kind of can impact people's lives. I've used this story before, and I'll say it just as an example. When we go to visit my in-laws, my wife, she just loves to tell, both of her parents all the things that they should be doing. Oh, you should be using Sonos for this, and oh, why don't you have this set up this way? And blah, blah, blah. But she's not taking the step to help them download it, help them get the preferences set up, and teach them how to use it. So oftentimes a lot of things are kind of just thrown out there in the ether of society with an assumption that people will figure out how to adopt it and use it. And that's where we really like to help people and say, you know what? So essentially, this is what this does. Here are your options of what you can do. And let me help set that up for you and show you how to use it. So I don't know if that answers it at all, but it really does come down to what are we trying to accomplish with this technology, whether it be communication for social ISO or whatever it may be, but then how does it really kind of apply, and how can we integrate it into somebody's world and not rock their world and make it more confusing than it needs to be.
And how do you easily and simply enhance communication? I've been on iPhone for a long time, and only recently have I just bumped into some articles that say you can do this and you can do that. I had no idea. I mean, if I have you guys in my back pocket and I'm showing you what I'm comfortable with, you're able to, I think, enhance my ability to communicate in emergencies, stay involved with my family members, and get my message out there.
Precisely. And, you look at the different, I've fallens or, safety mechanisms. We were also, one of the things that we're really, really, really getting a lot of push for, and I think it's really exciting and something that everyone should really take a look at is, everyone says smart home or smart technology, which are essentially applications, right? Like it's not necessarily like, oh, you're buying a home and all the infrastructure is all that different. What it really means is that it can support the connectivity to the Wi-Fi systems for the applications. But there's so many things to look at from a caregiver perspective, being able to, keep an eye on things, make sure that if a vendor's coming to the home, that we could kind of keep an eye on how that interaction goes down. anything from being able to make sure that the stove is off. There's just so many different ways to get into this that I think that with more and more folks, not necessarily, more people wanting to stay at home and being part of the at-home kind of movement, that really understanding how to make your technology work to kind of take some of the lift and the load off of the straight up caregiver and automize some of that so that you're not as stressed out about, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And you can check a platform or check an app that'll kind of walk you through those different things, I think can lead to a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah, those are my three favorite words in caregiving is peace of mind. I did have somebody respond. I use a phone to communicate with doctors and Zoom/texting to communicate with family. Are you seeing a lot of people having challenges with telehealth?
I think there's some challenges, but I think it's been adopted pretty simply. Like, I think that people, it was kind of a forced situation, but to the point of the texting, I think that that's also really important to understand is the generational approach to communication and understanding, if you're trying to get in touch with a teenager, they're not going to call you back if you leave a voicemail, even if you're really tight with them. What they want is, a quick response via text and to keep it offline. So the communication preferences and all the different styles really does come down to the individual and, how they like to operate and how you can get in touch with them. So I know that I can get in touch with my daughter if I drop her a text. If I actually tried to call her, she'd be like, ew, gross, why are you calling me? So you got to kind of understand how people interface differently with their technology.
My favorite thing on YouTube or the clips that you see is, I thought they were kidding at first, is showing kids a dial phone and they had no idea what they were looking at. They're trying to push the button. The world has changed. It changes very quickly.
Imagine hiring salespeople and putting a phone in front of them and asking them to call a stranger to set up a meeting. It just doesn't work. It's too scary.
So, hey, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to start with Diana. I'll ask you guys the same question so you could be ready for it. Is there one most common and most challenging question you get from family caregivers that you'd like to share with us and share the answers with us?
I think when we're doing the assessment, we hear the struggle and the respite that they need, but they are afraid to ask for it. So we are doing the assessment, we're asking questions, but they hold back a lot. So I think that's the most challenging, trying to figure out what we can offer. Reading between the lines, I always say, just open up, tell us exactly what you need, and there will be a resource and information that we can give you.
Yeah, I also want to talk about one other thing about the waiting in line. You're in line. Okay, it's a lot of people with specific needs, and sometimes the services can't catch up. And I've talked to Trish about this at events before. But there's things you need to do as a caregiver when you're on a list, waiting on a list. Not to call them every day, or call them when things change, or call them when you.
Yes.
What do I do if I've been on a list of services for a while to, get the best response?
Sure. So we call it significant change. Once we do an assessment, that's initial. That's the first time we put you on the list. And then we really don't reach out to you until funds become available or until an annual assessment is due. We want you to know you are able to give us a call if there are any changes. Maybe mom or dad can't bathe on their own anymore, or they fell, now they went to the hospital, their activities of daily living change. Let us know. We are able to complete a significant change assessment to update the needs.
Excellent. So if there's any significant change, don't just sit and wait, make the call, because you might get on another list. You might get bumped ahead. You might,
Right.
it might
Yes,
change your scenario.
Our waiting list is not based on first come, first served. It is strictly based on the need.
Excellent. Same question to you, Jack. Again, you deal with businesses, but you deal with people, you deal with humanity. Let me ask it this way. What's the one thing you wish that your clients knew before they came to you?
That's a great question. Because I'm always
Just made it up.
Yeah, I'm always parachuting in. That, it's not a walk-in, it's a parachute. It's thrust upon them in ways that I'm not sure how to answer it, that there is a way, because when you're told by a doctor, because you're doing a simple checkup, that you have a problem, but you don't have a plan for it, is when the system falls apart until it recovers. You're like that wife who's caring for her father now has to care for her husband, and by the way, they also found out that the son, who would be an heir apparent, has leukemia.
No.
This mom nobody understands what mom is going through. So I'm not really worried about the business, because the business is still working. It's now the family is about to fall apart. As you were nodding your head, we know what's going to happen. And we try our best to organize them to deal with this instead of hiding or avoiding. There are a number of families where they typically just don't respond because they don't know how to respond. And it takes somebody from the outside to say, and that's where the professional people come in, is they look at the wealth of information you're getting out of this presentation. You're talking to somebody with an 800 number that can deal with all these checklists of items. Diana's program is just awesome. Then you got Matt dealing with, here's how to get the system to work. I call it a system to keep communication and it up to date. I mean, what would be the best thing for Groovy Talk for me is having on my phone, saying, I fell down, help me, because I'm carrying my phone.
Yeah.
And if you're carrying your phone and you have an app for that, it tracks you and everything else. This is where you guys come in, and there's so much that I need to know that I don't know how to handle it. That's what I hear, as there's so much to know, I don't know how to handle it.
Absolutely. And Matt, that's technology right there. So much to know, I don't know how to handle it. I mean, I hate to say it, my 4-year-old great niece, swings around on this stuff, and I'm like, what is she? The whole world has changed. Of course, she FaceTimes me, and I'm so thrilled that she calls me. It's so nice. And she says, she gets on the FaceTime. I see that cute little face. I can't squeeze the cheeks or anything yet. She says, "Where's Junior?" She calls me to get to my dog. Hey, I'm in the mix. What do I care? But FaceTime now for a 4-year-old is like, pen and paper was to us in the dark ages.
Yeah.
Where do you see that going?
Well, I think that one thing that, we've been helping a lot of people with, and just as a real world, very recent representation of what we're trying to overcome, is people aren't considering the technical comfort level, if you will, of all the users. So technology is being touted as the solution for everything. And I'm going, long-winded to get to the point of, there was a big assumption that everybody could figure out how to get on Publix.com and get their vaccine figured out and get their scheduling going and all that. And I think that it's a representation of a form of ageism to a degree, where people are just saying, oh, just go to this site, and assume that people understand, the need to refresh and how to register. Some of this stuff can be quite confusing if you're not, born of it. And I don't think that I don't know her, I'm sure she's brilliant, but I don't think that your 4-year-old, is exceptionally, technically savvy. It's just they're born in that environment. You know what I mean? So, and that's one of the biggest things, is I think that there's an assumption of the younger generation and of the companies that are creating these technology, that they don't really care if you can't figure it out. Well, we don't need you. You know, you're going to have to deal with this. And in there's just a bias that I think is manifesting in a lot of different ways these days, and people aren't putting the entire population under consideration for, you know, hey, well, just get your vaccine, go to this site, or go sign up for these. You got to sign up for all these emails, and people get, you know, confused. And frankly, it's easy, you know, there's a drop off point where they're just like, you know what, I'm tired of this, and I don't want to be made to feel stupid or inferior. And that's really what I think is one of the biggest barriers we have right now, is there's almost like a shame being built up because people weren't digital natives. It doesn't reflect anything on someone's competency or intelligence, the time of year or the time of life that they were born, yet there's this bias underneath it a little bit where it's like, oh, I can't believe you can't figure it out. And oh, they'll roll their eyes. Like, oh my God, you're such a boomer. You can't do this. And it's like, that's not really, I don't know. It's something that we really fight against every day, I guess is what I'm saying, is I think that there is a inherent, it's kind of baked into the system. And I think that we need to really try to shed some light on it and address it so that there isn't any feeling of inferiority or shame.
You guys level the playing field, and also you're our advocate, you know, so, and I know, you know, a lot of different companies out there, oh, we'll deal with your tech, and their tech people are 24 years old and don't understand that you come from a generation and don't really care. They're just there to sell the product. You guys level the playing field and become our advocates and don't talk down to us. And I admire that, and I appreciate that. I think there's a real position for you, supporting, you know, some of us who are non-tech natives.
Yeah. I believe that, I'll get off the soapbox, but you tapped a nerve. I believe that just with the influx of devices, technology, and applications that's happening, that most households, regardless of age, will have a technology consultant. So we've always thought of IT as a B2B scenario, right? But now with the, you know, the amount of solutions, and as Jack was saying, oh, I just need to know where to go to get this or what that all is. You almost need someone to be your guide on that to be able to make the most of it, and just look at that through the lens of making your day easier. If you're scheduling appointments for your loved one or what you're doing, you're going to be interfacing with technology. So being able to kind of navigate that as smoothly as possible can lead to a lot more free time, I guess.
Okay. Well, another response came in. I have Apple Watch for an emergency.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
that's
and
good when you get hungry because you have an apple on your arm. So it's good.
The wearables is something that's going to, I think, be very helpful from this perspective as they get it going a little bit more, because it does the inherent monitoring and all these things. So I think that that's a great thing. I think having a group text in case of a emergency, tying your group text or whatever it is to your home. So if you have an Echo Dot, you know, Alexa, I fell, you know, whatever it may be, then have that shoot out to your, you know, your contact list, your caregiver list, things from that perspective. There's a lot of different applications.
Oh, that's so important for the primary caregiver who gets calls all the time and emails all the time. If you have a group list where you can share the same information easily across interested parties, and making sure people get the information you want them to get, saves us a lot of time.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Lots of time and heartburn, because it's almost everyone's going to force you to want it. Every company is going to force you to try to use their digital product. So if you want to go see the Miami Dolphins, you're going to have to get their app to get the tickets. And all of a sudden your phone or computer turns into app stew, where you just got a million of them. And you got to figure out how to manage it.
I do want to say that I did get a response to my apple on the arm. And the response was, okay, boomer. I remember when boomer meant young, but you know, I'm going to sleep about the time I used to go out these days. So that ain't me. Jack, got a question for you. Where can we get a copy of Jack's checklist? It sounds like a powerful tool.
I sent it. I'm looking over here at my other screen where I now put it in the chat, the answer. So right now there's a sudden death checklist.com, and look at the tab that says caregiver, and you'll get special pricing for books.
Yay. Excellent. And then I got one for you, Matt. Hi, Matt. Your mission is awesome, unique, and much needed. Cool. for those of us attending who are caregivers for adult children with varying needs and disabilities, after schooling is over, support for communication, use of devices drop to nothing. Are any Groovy Tech services geared in this direction?
That's in a nutshell, what we do and what we're trying to, that's the need that we're filling. So I responded to that with the notion of, the days of, quality support and user manuals after the purchase have kind of gone away. So good luck. If you have an issue with your Apple, you got to navigate, get an appointment at the Apple store, and then going to the Apple store and people only having, like ear pods in and not really that's like a scavenger hunt along of its own to find out a human to talk to at a store, the Apple store. So what we want to do is be able to do just that and kind of customize the menu. It's almost like a sushi menu of all the things that we can do and the technology can do, but really take a look at how you're interfacing with technology, what your day-to-day is, and give you kind of your prescription. Hey, have you thought about using this? Let me show you how this works. Are you comfortable with it? Okay, you're comfortable with it. Let's get you set up for it. And the way that we do it is we offer all of our services are, one-on-one. We do an in-home. So we're going to go and work with folks right next to them in their home work environment. If it's a kitchen table, the home office, whatever it is. And we're going to go against the old, IT of, hey, get out of the way and call me and let me fix it and call me later when you break it again. So we really do want to sit and help the actual client, drive and do it on their own and get that muscle memory. Then we also always, provide notes of exactly what was covered in the training session so that when it comes up again and we're not there, we can do that. We also have over the phone support. So say you did a session and you had a question about something that we did, you can call our team and we can jump on the computer and help you. We can get, so there's just a million different ways for us to help. But yes. The whole point is we have these things and nobody's sitting there saying, hey, you should be using it for this, or do you know that you can do X, Y, or Z? It's more like you walk down the aisle of a plane and you see someone with larger text, you're like, hey, how'd they get that? But you don't really know how to do it. So that's definitely what we do every day.
No, excellent. It reminds me, we have the magazine and we have amazing designers, but most of them, they come through and they're young. And so they'll do a colored behind, it's gorgeous. They'll do a small type, of gorgeous. And I always say, okay, you think that's good for my audience? I want you to take this to your grandmother's bridge club and see what they say, because it's communicating with the person you're trying to serve, as opposed to communicating from your internal, Apple expert. And that was always been the missing link, I think, even for me, who had a modicum of understanding of technology. You plug it in, it works. That you guys are providing that missing link, and I truly appreciate it. Diane, I don't know if this is for you or we need to wait for the next panel, but I had a really great question that actually has a lot to do with what's going on these days. What if a nursing home has minimal visitation? We all had our vaccinations, but some resident family would not let family members allow their parent. Okay, should we have a special wing so we could see our family members? That's the question. It kind of got a little convoluted, but it's visitation. It's a big issue these days. My boss, sorry.
Okay. Unfortunately, that is really something that we can not really say much on. It is based on the facility and their rules. We are living right now in different times with COVID, a lot of restrictions. But I would suggest to speak with the nursing home assisted living administrator, try to come up to a happy medium. But yeah, there's nothing that we really can do.
It's a big issue that I hear a lot of conversation about these days. And we just interviewed Richard Louie from MSNBC, whose dad is in a nursing home. And before he got vaccinated, he's in California. Before he got vaccinated, he had, for a year, he was seeing him through a glass and he said he's going back to California now to see and touch his dad for the first time in a year.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we're coming out of things, but we have to be smart about it. And as I said, that's where everybody on this panel, this is so perfectly timed, this particular panel, the support we need from the area agency, the support we need technologically, because we've been locked down. You know, if you had no ability to do anything but a flip phone, you know, you've had a much different year than other people who had, you know, Matt on this team. And, you know, with Jack, understanding the pieces you need to have in place for the emergencies that will come. So I'm really impressed with myself for putting a panel like this together, except I just made sure that we had a nice mix of conversation. Great insight about the presumptions of being a digital native. I'm in an innovation program, and our biggest issue are to map those roadblocks to power families and caregivers with our solutions. How deep is this tech gap? And in what situations, oh, this is great, is the gap smaller? I think that's a Matt question.
I think that in almost all situations, the gap is significantly smaller than it's perceived. And I really, really believe that. And I think that what you find is people have been harboring this sense of being left behind and thinking that, you know, they're too far away from the pack to overcome that. And what we do, one of our biggest programs is called the 3 for 2 program. And for that, you get 3 hours of training sessions for the price of 2. And the reason that we do that is we find that when we're able to work with people and do 3 different sessions, we're able to really address the fear and the frustration in the first one. And normally we're going to get contacted for, you know, we kind of know the dirty dozen of things that drive people to the point of being frustrated enough to call us. So, you know, issues with their printer connecting, that's half the reason we're in business. People can't, you know, that's just a tough world. People really want to get into understanding streaming, and there's nobody really helping people navigate, you know, which services make sense and everything from that side of it. So the bottom line is, once you're able to start learning a couple of things, most of the things work somewhat similarly. So the bridge is not very far. It's more the secret sauce, so to speak, is having someone by your side that is supportive and understands it and is almost acting as a bit of an umbrella or a shield of too much information. So being able to distill it down to, okay, I just want to know what I need to know about FaceTime. We can figure that out with somebody in a short period of time and get them comfortable with it. So it's really about, you know, kind of the tuning out of the extra noise and focusing in on what are the different areas that we can really show someone, hey, there's magic attached to, you know, connecting with your granddaughter on FaceTime. There's magic attached to, you know, starting to figure out how to use emojis and communicating via group text with, you know, some family and friends and stuff like that. There's, you know, a lot of this stuff gets to that magic point very quickly. So I think the bridge is much larger in people's minds than in reality, and just spending a little bit of time addressing it's just like taking something out and exposing it to sunlight, right? Like you'll see that it's not as hairy or scary as you thought it was.
Yeah, you know, actually, it makes a lot of sense. These companies don't spend billions to make products that people can't use. The senior market's larger than any other market, and they understand. And I think you're right. It's a baseline. If you know how to use this communication system, within reason, this communication system or this add-on or this new concept in communication should just be a stair step. But you're not going to know that unless you have a partner by your side going, don't worry.
Yeah. The partner needs to say, don't worry, it's okay to press that button.
Yes.
There's a lot of button pressing.
I need that person.
Scenarioizing of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen if I click this? And it's justified to a point, because there are a lot of, you know, things to be wary of. And we're actually doing, I'm going to send out a note on this. We're doing a free webinar in 2 weeks. And it's all about just how to kind of stay safe operating online, because we're doing it in response, frankly, to an article that was in the Sun Sentinel 2-3 weeks ago about a couple of ladies that got scammed by this. They call it the Geek Squad email scam. And one of the folks actually ended up losing about $57,000 to these people. And what they do, this is really shady, but what they do is try to take the name of an established company and say, hey, we've extended your service, your agreement for the next 3 years. If they click on it, then they're in. So you just have to be really careful. If something, and it's old school rules, right? Like if something seems too good to be true, it is. They're trying to get you in on this, and really be careful on, what you're being approached with, what you're clicking and what you're sharing, and really understanding what are safe sites and things from that perspective.
I've called banks through their own phone line. I've called insurance companies. I've called people and said, did you send me this? And 9 times out of 10, they did not.
No, they don't. And those are the rules that you have to learn, just simple stuff like the IRS isn't going to call you, but it's tough. So that's what's frustrating. And I think that does add to the perception that the bridge is larger than it is.
Thanks. Diana, we talk about helpline, and a lot of times I'm thinking that, supporting caregivers for decades and knowing helpline and knowing these conversations, I may be doing the same thing. I may be making assumptions. Give me your elevator speech of why, when, and how people need to call the helpline and what you guys can do for them. So it's not just a conversation that I'm making assumptions about.
Sure. So we have the information and referral. We really get questions, all kinds of questions. We've even gotten a call from a senior asking, what day and time is it right now? And we answer.
That was me.
So that's really, we are open to all kinds of questions. We try to think outside of the box for you. But really the main thing that I want you to know of what we do here is we serve seniors, adults with disabilities, and caregiver. If you are in need of any resources, you are looking for an adult daycare, you are needing someone to be with your loved one, meanwhile you're out of the home, to take a breather, we are able to give you resources, either paid services, or we'll talk to you about the state priority list that we manage. We have several programs, one of them being the Medicaid program that would provide that kind of assistance once the funds become available. If you are looking for financial assistance to pay for your electric bill, we'll suggest eHeap and other programs, agencies that can help you pay that bill. Home delivered meals. Right now, there are many of agencies that are offering an emergency meal, especially now during COVID. So we really provide all type of information and resources. It's very important that you know us. We are able to guide you to different resources, again, that you may need.
State, local,
it's not
federal.
limited.
Yeah. So if I have a question about potential resources for myself in the counties that you are involved in, I call you, and your people are gracious and understanding that I don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Right. We will know what you're talking about. And if you happen not to be in one of the counties that we serve, we do have other area agency on aging throughout Florida, and we're more than happy to link you with the right area agency on aging.
Great. That's again, to me, there's 600 plus area agency on aging. They cover every county in the country. I was in Alaska working with the area agency on aging there, and obviously here in Florida and California. And I've never seen anybody at ADRC or area agency on aging who hasn't had the caregivers and our senior loved ones or disabled loved ones' interests front and center. So we appreciate that. Okay, Jack.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you, here's the thing. I always say you're the CEO of Caring for Your Loved One Inc., this and that and the other thing. What have you heard from family members after they've used a checklist, or that now their mindset is, oh boy, this is a business. I better get on board because I don't want to get sideswiped. I don't want something to happen to my loved one to where they can't respond, and then I don't know where passwords are, codes are. I don't know where insurances are. What are you hearing from caregivers?
Overwhelmed. There's so much to know. And there's so much that they have not been trained to deal with. And they're learning to deal with their siblings on support. How many, I'm sure every one of you has an elder care issue, a situation where the daughter is carrying all the weight and the brothers are sitting back doing nothing.
Hey, watch yourself.
I understand, but I picked that because I can name 5 companies in their families with
Sure.
that issue. Okay. One of the things that's happening since I've been working with you, Gary, is I think I need to put a tab on. I have 10 tabs, everyone, and the tabs start with checklists and they end up with, keeping track of the finances and stuff like that. And it was written in a book format because if you put it digital, you lose control. Okay. If somebody clicks on, now they got access to a set of documents that are now available to anybody. So one of the challenges you have is where can you keep something private and safe without having it explored by others?
Right.
So that's why it's in a book format. So now you have to have somebody who sits there and needs training. And what I think Diana and Bruno is doing in their work is helping people and answering their questions, which is part of the training. Training is learning what you don't know. And, so from my standpoint, everybody that's attending this is training others to help themselves. That's what they're doing. And I need to add a tab that says elder care.
Yeah.
That's what I got to do in my book now. I'm sitting here going, geez, I should do that. I kept it separate. I should integrate.
Listen to caregivers. You'll always learn.
Yeah. So, and by the way, these are many of you are very sophisticated counselors. So this is, that's the one thing I've realized is that the depth of quality in this community is outstanding. Really is.
Appreciate that. Got some more questions for Matt. I know some of them you've answered on the side, but I want to make sure everybody gets that answer. And this is really important. I think this might be a thing that the first thing we want to think about when it has to do with somebody helping us with our technology. Some adult children are worried about a stranger, tech person, going to parents. If elderly parents have financial or important information on their computers, are you able to address this? Are your tech people background checked and trained? And let's go into training a little bit.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges and assumptions when we were creating the company, 5 years ago, was how can we differentiate what we're doing and how can we frankly sleep at night in making sure that we have all of the guardrails in place for that element of trust that's happening and that has to be baked into our user experience for us to be able to work with folks, side by side in their homes and frankly, with our team kind of knowing some things that maybe the clients didn't know, that was a huge concern. So our first, kind of build out of the company was really based on what do we do? We worked with all the different, attorneys and insurance companies and we're protected from that perspective as a company, but also more so for the client. And one of the things that, when we first work with somebody, we walk through our privacy policy. We have our trainers sign it in front of the clients. It's very transparent. We have, before we hire someone, we have extensive background checks. We have extensive insurance. We have extensive, we tie into bonding. So there's nothing that's going to be more buttoned up than what we're offering. And I don't know if we got into it over the main or if it was on a chat, but as I say, there are predators out there that are trying to get people, you know, when their guards down a little bit and have them not understand the technology side of it. So frankly, it's something that we support the different police, but we do everything we can to make sure that people know that we take that extremely seriously. Knock on wood, we've done, you know, well over 12,000 hours of in-home sessions, and we have not had a case of any issue from that perspective. It's not something that we cross, and we're very blessed to not have, you know, kind of seen that waters. But again, we need to be very aware of that. And it's something that we, you know, bake into our mission statement, we bake into our training, we bake into the DNA of everything we're doing. And it's part of, like, with our trainers, when you work with us, you'll see they know a lot of technology, but I think what they know more is what they're really serving, which is providing security, providing a relationship, and providing that resource that someone can trust. So
Trusted authority.
it's a phenomenal question, and I'm glad to answer it and to address it at any time. It's something that, you know, it's one of our driving forces, and I frankly believe it's one of our differentiators. There are and have been, you know, plenty of people over the course of the years that, you know, help people with technology, and maybe they live in their parents' basement and they put a magnet on their car and they go and, you know, help people and have a little list of things. But we're the ones that are trying to make it an actual business and industry. And that's one of the primary points of concern and areas that we focus on and address immediately and all the way through.
Well,
We
let's
don't keep credit cards. You wouldn't believe how seriously we go on that side of things.
along those lines, let's talk about your upcoming webinar.
Sure. So that was, as I say, it was in response to the article that we saw on the Geek Squad style email scams going on. And actually, I don't know, you guys are Palm Beach County, so maybe you know, I just, before this, I got off the phone with the folks who have a morning show. Their names are Jill and Rich, and they're on Legends Radio. And we were just talking to them about the need for just people to be able to have a couple of tools to understand what's safe and what they should be aware of. So, you know, again, emails, you got to be extremely careful. That's kind of the Trojan horse on a lot of the hacking and a lot of the exposure. They really just need to get access into your computer. And then once they're there, it's terrible what they can do in terms of, you know, frankly, extortion, right? Like, so they'll tell you, hey, this is going to happen to your computer if you don't comply with X, Y, or Z. The sad thing about this recent one that we're talking about was they instructed this lady to go and just buy $500 gift cards at as many places as she could until she got up to $5,000 to $50,000. And then that was when they were going to remove the stuff. So there's the other part of it, which goes to that shame element, is I think these are extremely underreported. So I think that there's a lot of people that may have fallen victim to some of these frauds that are ashamed and aren't really looking to, hey, I got scammed for this amount. And I know that they don't necessarily even want to share it with their, you know, adult children, because there's this vulnerability and this, you know, kind of, I can't believe I was susceptible to that and I fell for X, Y, or Z. But again, it goes to the digital native. This is an entirely new phenomenon and environment, you know, and how could anybody really know everything that they need to know to be aware of when this stuff is iterating? You know, the scammers almost are like an algorithm. Like, they're going to keep moving to what is effective at that point in time. So we think that just kind of having those conversations and arming folks with a couple of, you know, kind of things to be on high alert and aware of and some best practices can provide a lot of value.
I think it's important. And also it's the same thing about our loved ones living in the community or driving. I always say that, you know, your loved one knows they shouldn't be driving a year before you know they shouldn't be driving. And you know it about 6 months before you accept that you know it. So it's the same thing. If they have you guys in their corner, they maybe can avoid having to have that large conversation with a family where they look like they're incapable and incompetent.
And again, we have a lot of our business is the adult children wanting their, their older folks to be more versed on certain things. So being able to set up the group text forum, being able to do X, Y, or Z so that they know how to communicate and keep that going from a safety perspective as well. So there's a lot of different arms and legs on it. But again, I don't think it's as confusing as it sounds. I don't want it to sound scary. It's just, we should be proactive and aware of what's going on with some of these things.
All right. Well, you're awfully popular because one other question came in. How would you address situations where loved ones have no tech skills, have been resistant to learning skills even before the stage, but as cognition declines, there's minimal chance a loved one can learn about technology, even something as simple as using a smartphone for basic emergency calls. And you just talked about that, where adult children or caregivers want their loved ones still living in the community to have this kind of training. You guys are sensitized to that?
Yeah, and it's, again, that goes back to addressing, the perception of the gap. So I can't say that, every single individual we come across is going to all of a sudden become extremely comfortable, if they're bringing that in. But I will tell you that the way we would approach it would be much more from the benefit feature, inversion, and show, kind of have a conversation, try to take the temperature down a little bit in terms of the aversion to technology, and make it so that maybe there's a couple of digestible things that we could do. So maybe it's something about setting up helping them set up, or actually setting up like an Echo Dot and showing them a couple of things that Alexa could do, because that's a gateway, that's a gateway thing. When someone can have someone help them program, Alexa, turn on the lights, or Alexa, what's the temperature, or this, that, or the other. You'd be surprised how quickly people, kind of turn the corner and become kind of giddy with the adoption of the technology. So again, I can't say, we would be able to, have someone turn into a tech whiz overnight or change the tone of their relationship. But a lot of what our mission is based around really is helping people change the tone of their relationship with technology, from one of frustration and resentment to one of more kind of coexistence and understanding and leveraging it. So kind of flipping the script of, how can I make this device work to make my life better, as opposed to making me feel, kind of behind the times on this and not able to catch up.
Yeah, the other thing I'm noticing, the conversations and your answers is, it's unique to every person. Some people may have larger tech needs. Some people just want to be comfortable, and the best thing they can do to interact and support with their family and deal with their doctors. So it seems very individualized. You're not trying to train everybody to be some kind of Apple genius.
No, it's how can you use the tools that are in the devices that you already have to improve your life, or what device might be the gateway to kind of help some of these things come to life.
Excellent. Diana, one quick thing. How has COVID changed the conversations you're having with family caregivers?
It really haven't changed much. Other than seniors are home alone more, and we are trying to be a support. We are doing a call daily to one call to all of our clients who are on the wait list to see how they're doing, to see if we are able to give them other resources, to see if we need to reevaluate their needs. We are calling that a telephone reassurance call. So all of our clients on our wait list are receiving that call from us. So that's something new from COVID, since COVID started, that we are doing. Also, the COVID vaccine. That's one of the main calls that we're getting. How can I give a COVID vaccine? So please give us a call. If you are homebound, we are able to give you, if your loved one is homebound, we are able to give you resources and guide you as to what resource you can have if your loved one cannot leave their home and need a vaccine.
I love the idea of the outbound calls. I hope that stays past COVID. It's a reassurance call. That's a great word for it.
It is. So that's one of the main topics, the vaccine.
and the vaccine. So if I still have a conversation, a challenge with vaccine, like we were talking about, sometimes it's too technologically absurd to find out where and how, I can call the helpline and you guys can walk me through it.
Correct.
That's very nice. As we wrap up, it's been these caregivers are working me hard. I love it. A lot of questions, a lot of interactions, a lot of great answers. And, you know, I'm thrilled that our first Palm Beach County virtual Fearless Caregiver conference is as exhausting as the in-person ones are, because that means it's working. Let me ask you, if I could, to give me a, excuse me, the boss. And take your time on this. What's the one most important piece of advice that you would like to share with family caregivers if they take away nothing more than this from this conversation? What would you think that would be? I'll stay with you, Diana.
Awesome. Okay. I would say don't forget to put on your own oxygen mask. Take care of yourself. You need to do that in order to take care of your loved one. Please keep in mind that we are here for you. Our phone number, again, I know in the chat someone asked how to reach us. It is 866-684-5885. If you don't know where to turn to us and we will guide you. Take care of yourself. Thank you for being here. And I hope that you learned a lot from us.
I just got a note says, Diana, thank you very much. AAA is amazing in all caps. So it's wonderful. You guys are really wonderful. You do a great job, and your counterparts that I've dealt with around the country do a great job as well. Is there online some way to reach you, or is this we should just call?
I would suggest call. My role did change. I am the helpline manager, so I am busy, not always on the phone, able to answer. But if you call the 866, one of our specialists will be able to help you.
Excellent. Dr. Vail.
Yes, my quick thank you very much for inviting me. I get to learn every time I'm here, so I'm a lucky guy. I can participate and learn. If you do decide that you'd like to try the book, I will give you free advice. Give me a call and say, hey, you know, I bought the book. How do I use this? Because I've done that a lot of times. Once you understand how the book works, then you can apply it to family conflicts, because you will run into family conflicts. And the best way to get them to stop conflicting with each other is to look at some goal in that book checklist. Helps build goals. And your families will, how do you get the two brothers to step in to help the poor sister? This book checklist, it does that with your help. You can't do it, just say, here's the book, go do it. It requires some training that you're already doing. It's just to train them, here's the process. And by the way, there's a guy that can help you. And just one more thing is I have 3 books. One is called Sudden Death Checklist for Business Owners. And I have an executor's checklist and a trustee's checklist. And the trustee's checklist is for if the family sets up a trust, what does sister do? Or what do the brothers do? That's how this works. So thank you everyone for coming and attending.
Well, also, and I didn't want to forget this, you're also, you know, internationally renowned for your work with private businesses. So I don't know if anybody here has or families have private businesses, but I don't want them to forget, you know, that you could help them there too.
Well, the question comes in, if you should die, the ownership of the company goes to the spouse for tax-free. And are you prepared to run the company? And if you have employees, what are you going to do about that? You know, all of a sudden you're thrusted upon in the midst of mourning. Hey, who's running the company? So that's another reason why you want to do the checklist up front. Just
checklist up front. I like that. It's really true. You need to do this before you need to do this.
6 months ago, those two brothers they had no concern of replacing themselves. Now they don't have time, or they might have time. Who knows?
How to reach you?
I think if they find you, they'll find me through you. Or you can go to suddendeathchecklist.com or jackvale@gmail.com.
Okay, excellent.
Cool.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you very much. Matt, so now you had time to think about it because you watched everybody else go through it. But so one most important piece of advice, and how do we contact you, especially since you're right here in Palm Beach County?
Well, the phone number is 561-560-0123. I'm very proud of that phone number. I think I have a little thing for phone numbers, and I love the 0123. You can always go to send an email to Matt, M-A-T-T, at groovytech.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions. In terms of advice, I don't feel as if I can give a ton of advice, specifically, but I would say that I think that looking at your technology as a way to simplify the many different hats that you're wearing and the many different roles you're doing, and looking to kind of make sure that you're streamlining what you're doing and making, everything a little bit more efficient, might be worth exploring, doing a couple sessions with one of our trainers. So as I say, they can almost, take a look at everything that you're using, how you're doing things, and maybe offer a few ways to, make things a little bit more organized, have things also maybe work with the folks that you're taking care of as well. So I think that there's a lot of value in looking at technology, not as a adversary, but as a potential tool to improve, the efficiencies of your day-to-day life. And, again, it's been brought up multiple times, and I appreciate it. It's really hard to, to be the sommelier and know, every wine in the cellar. And that's kind of how we look at it with the solutions. Like our trainers know all the different ways that we can make something help, somebody's day-to-day life, but we don't need to bore you with all the details. Instead, we'll kind of diagnose and say, would you be comfortable using X, Y, or Z, or this might be something that could help. Would you like to explore that? So look at it as a potential tool and a way to kind of broaden your team. You're the CEO, but also let's see some other tools that can help the CEO out to have a little bit more free time, if you will.
Excellent. One thing that popped up as you were talking, could you repeat your phone number?
Yeah, 561-560-0123.
I love that. I don't know how you did that, but in the old days, I lived in North Carolina and lived in Atlanta. I lived obviously here. But in the old days, you actually were able to call and talk to somebody to get a number. And I'd always say, I really have very slow friends. Can you give me an easy number? And I always 0550 or 123. So somebody who actually can do that these days, when everything is done technically and not necessarily in person, you really are my technical guru on that.
I'll work on numbers for you next time.
I appreciate that very much. And you guys are local. So you said something interesting just now that I didn't even think about. Your folks can come over for an assessment. You don't have to sign some multi-year contract or anything. You just come over, assess, tell me what I need, and think if we could go further together.
Yeah, and it's really, and a lot of that, as I say, that also goes to, we do a lot of things, a lot of sessions with folks where we're really helping that they're about to buy a computer, or they know that they think they need to upgrade or this or that, and we'll kind of help them, talk through what might make sense for them to consider. We're not tied to any company or producer, so we don't have any skin in the game with whatever the solution is. But if somebody's looking for a new laptop, maybe we can save them, hundreds and hundreds of dollars by pointing them in the direction of something that will be functional and work for them, versus walking into a big box tech retailer and kind of just being blown by the wind.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for one of the most amazing panels that I've been part of. listen, you guys might recognize David if you've come to our Palm Beach event or even our Port St. Lucie event as the guy pushing me around in this amazing light motorized wheelchair. Last year, or 2 years ago, there is no last year. David is one of these wonderful Caregiver Friendly Award entrepreneurs that do what you're supposed to do when you're building services, products for family caregivers. He asks us, what do we want? What do we need? How can I build this to help you? And he did that at those live events, and that moved the process along. And now he's back. They're ready to rock and roll, and he doesn't want to go to market without you, his board of directors, his CEO, his educated partners, without your advice and your support. So I'm really thrilled that you're our spotlight position today, because what you're doing, all organizations should do. So I'll let you at it.
Thank you so much, Gary, and great job, panelists. And Gary, what you're doing with this organization is absolutely amazing. Hats off to you, and more power to you here. So a quick background on me, who I am. I'm up in Stewart here. I've been here about 25 years, developing new products for people. I get a lot of referral work from patent attorneys, and I help people take their products to market, to the next steps through prototyping and manufacturing, et cetera. And I had a great opportunity about 2 years ago. A woman came into my office who's a caregiver, who was seriously injured, transporting her husband around for the latter years of his life. And so it was specific to a transport chair injury. Okay, so she sustained serious shoulder damage, etc. And her husband was over, I guess he was like 260, she was 150, wheeling him around, and a few surgeries later, a lot of pain. And she was looking for a device like this, like you see behind me here, a transport chair, a lightweight transport chair that had a powered module on it that could be transported in a lightweight fashion, if you will. So she came with her patent, and she worked with an associate with mine to build an initial prototype, which I have here, near and dear. This is the power module that I brought down and wheeled Gary around on at one point. So it's evolved a little bit. It's still in pieces right now, but we're at a great place right now. We're in a pre-production or beta production stage now. So we would like to gain a little bit more insight. We have some specific questions to ask on some of the remaining features and benefits we want to include into the device. So we kind of want to quantify these features with you, the caregiver, so we can develop and offer a better product to the world. And so this is a fun chance for you to chime in. We're gonna, Ezra's gonna run a little poll as I go through this, and this should be fun, a little question and answer. But yeah, I think that's enough about me. You get the story. One other little tidbit is I've committed to this project, so I'm an investor. I'm putting my whole other business on the back burner as I drive this product to market for however long it takes. But I'm in it to win it and to help you guys as caregivers have some empowerment, literally. So I'll get to the little slides show here. I got a little video, and then we will catch up with some poll questions pretty quick here. So here would be the problem, if you will. I'm sure this resonates with many of you.
Like most caregivers, you find pushing a traditional chair uphill or across rugged terrain difficult, trying, and sometimes downright impossible, getting you nowhere fast. At times, it's like you have square wheels. Stop pushing and start giving with Power Drive. What if there were a way to effortlessly escort a chair up a hill? With PowerDrive, you can. The secret is the PowerDrive unit. Created for caregivers, the light and portable PowerDrive attaches to the back of the chair, engaging the wheels with one easy-to-push lever. Once attached, you can use the color-coded buttons on the handle to help move forward and reverse. With precision, variable speed control, push a button and whoosh, off you go, using just one finger. Hills? PowerDrive. Grassy fields? PowerDrive. Rough terrain? Yep, you guessed it. PowerDrive. Stop struggling to get your loved ones around and start living again with PowerDrive. Built for caregivers. Built for you.
So a little bit about the device here is, as I mentioned, it's a lightweight foldable transport chair. It is controlled only by the caregiver at this point. So it's not for a rider to control because of many reasons. One is, could be other issues associated with the rider, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and these actually become quite dangerous projectiles, if you will, if they're not controlled right. So we're taking that safety step, so it's taking a step back and having this only controlled by the caregiver. And the real key feature, the neat part about this is it's relatively impossible to include motors, a battery, etc., and a chair, and have a device that can weigh in the 20-pound range. So each of our modules is about 20 pounds. So, and they're obviously individual and modular. So it makes it quite easy to maneuver, transport, throw in the back seat of the car, in the trunk. You don't need a lot of extra tow capacity, if you will, etc. So that's an overview of the product here. So we have a maximum speed control, a safety brake. So you let off of this little hand trigger, it automatically stops and on a hill, etc. And then we have buttons that are illuminated, and a throttle. Again, if you let off it abruptly or squeeze it abruptly, it's a subtle acceleration, deceleration, and a battery indicator. So the questions we have for the audience here would include these last items here. It sounds so. We've been talking to some distributors locally here, and some of these other devices have audio alarms, if you will. So we're contemplating the need to add a reverse sound, if you will, an on-off sound. So we've included the ability to add these features into the design of the circuit board, etc. But we don't, we're not 100% sure. So we'd like to quantify this with you guys, basically. So do we add sound, or will it be annoying? I don't know. I'm asking you. So if you'd like to jump on the survey there, or add to the comments, we can survey this and make some final decisions with our software and electronics design there. So a reverse beep, does it make a solid beep, a continuous, or a beep, 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 beep? An on off, do we want a beep when it turns on and off? And then the maximum and minimum speed controls. Do we want to have sound, beep, 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 as you push that up and down? So chime in there. This is a good one. Do we add a key, or is that going to be annoying? Would it be a good safety feature for children watching the adults use this device, and then you're not around, and then they start powering it up, etc. So we're contemplating, a physical barrel key, if you will, perhaps a key fob if we want to get fancy, RFID or something. But I guess the big question is, do we add a key or not? So anxious to hear your thoughts on that. And then you have any additional comments, please add them in to the comments here, and we'll take them to heart and perhaps implement. Last but not least, we have sorry about that, seat cushions. So that's been coming up. that we're looking at other products on the market, and seat cushions seem obviously to be a keen comfort feature. So should we add a version, should we add different versions of seat cushion, have a seat cushion period, or would it be cumbersome? So that's a question to ask as well. A shopping bag. So do we have a shopping bag on the side or on the back for obviously for shopping, a caregiver escorting you through a a mall or grocery store? Would that come in handy? And a cup holder that came up during the last meeting here, and that's another little accessory. So we're just kind of trying to visualize the rider, if you will, and the caregiver. Are there any other features we could add to make this nicer for everybody? We're planning on adding little, I call them wheelie bars, but anti-tip levers in the back, so it won't flip and have the clearance to go up curbs, etc. Yeah, I'm real interested to hear your feedback there. If you wanted more information as we roll this out, we do have this a website where you can get registered, and we can give you updates on our progress, etc. We're looking to perhaps roll out in the fourth quarter of this year, and early next year. Q1 should be pretty significant rollout, but we're planning to be at our distributor. We have a distributor up in Orlando. Actually, we're going to launch this through them. We're going to send them out as rentals initially, so we can really bang hard on them and get the feedback from actual field testing, and then fine tune a little bit. And then in the spring, ideally, all powers that be line up, we'll be in a full launch state at that time. So that's my story. Any more? I'm not seeing any questions coming by here. But
I had a handful of questions here
okay,
that came through that I'm reading. One person said, I would be interested. That's nice. Another person said, is it covered by Medicare?
Hopefully. So we need to build, present, and then they will make an assessment. So we're going for that avenue, of course.
Excellent. I know that's a process. I've heard from many people.
Great question.
What if you already have a wheelchair? Can this be an add-on device? I'm not sure about that.
Unfortunately, we chose not to do that. It could be an option down the road, but the decision was made that if we build the chair and we build the power module, we can guarantee that everything's going to fit right. So it would be risky to bolt this on. In theory, it could. There'd be a little retrofit hardware probably to add to a chair. But down the road, it's a possibility. But right now, we're erring towards being a little conservative and safer. That it's going to work when it goes on. Period.
And your polls came back.
They did. Look at that.
Let's run through those.
Yeah. So we have 35% for reverse, for sound. So that's interesting. On off for sure. Thank you. And minimum maximum speed. I think we should just do it all. Yeah, that's pretty solid for me. I mean, even as I was just talking through these in my mind.
Let me just, without further ado, introduce you to our second panel, not second on our hearts, just second chronologically. If my wonderful panelists could sign in, please. Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
Victoria.
Hi.
And then Ms. Pink, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. All right, I know we're going to be joined shortly by our good friend Jason, but let's start. Let's get right into it. Who are you? What you do? How are you helping caregivers? And what do you want to hear from people? Start with Victoria.
All right. Thank you so much, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here today. So my name is Victoria, and I am the program manager for Palm Beach County with the Alzheimer's Association, as well as helpline specialist for the state of Florida. So here at the Alzheimer's Association, we are providing care and support by providing support groups. We are doing them all virtually currently, so either virtually or telephonically, as well as educational programs geared for individuals looking to learn a little bit more about Alzheimer's disease, maybe some early warning signs of Alzheimer's or dementia, as well as for caregivers. We have some effective communication strategies and behavioral educational programs. And of course, the Alzheimer's Association is leading the way with our research. So we are hoping to one day find that cure and an end to Alzheimer's and all other dementias. So of course, we're always looking for community support to help us in our fundraising efforts, as we are, of course, a non-for-profit organization. So all of our funds go to programs and to research. And all the programs we provide to the community are free of charge. It's about just being there and available for everyone. And our 24/7 hour helpline is always available to caregivers, no matter what the situation. And that number is 800-272-3900. And I'll make sure to put that information in the chat. And so please feel free, no matter what you're looking for, to reach out to us. We're here to care and support with you. Thank you.
So when many people hear the term mental health, it often causes them to think about mental illness instead. And mental health and mental illness may be cousins, but there is a difference. And in fact, there's also a third category. Some people might be diagnosed with a mental illness, and it could be short-term, long-term. Some people are experiencing good mental health, and so they are flourishing. And in between, in the middle, is languishing. And if you're languishing, it's okay. It's okay to answer the question when somebody says, how are you doing, with I'm languishing, rather than the quick and maybe inaccurate response, I'm okay. Because basically it's okay not to be okay. But if you're not okay, it's also okay to ask for help. A lot of people are languishing at this time in our lives, impacted by the 13 months since lockdown, and actually 18 months we've been dealing with this virus since its identification in December 2019. But there are ways that you can maintain and protect your good mental health. And Mental Health America is the Southeast Florida affiliate of the national organization, established 64 years ago locally. Its programs and services assist people in maintaining good mental health. MHA does not provide direct treatment or therapy. MHA Information Referral Service is available for that, but many of the MHA programs are therapeutic for persons with or without a mental illness diagnosis. So perhaps during the Q&A, I'll be able to share with you some of the specific programs and services that can help you as a caregiver.
Thank you. And Jason, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Gary. Great to be here. How are you?
Excellent. We're doing fine. We're getting our cookies.
Very nice. Okay, so am I introducing myself? Is that what I'm doing? All right, hi guys. I'm Jason Neufeld. I'm an elder law, Medicaid planning, and estate planning attorney with Elder Needs Law. We have offices in South Miami, Aventura, Plantation, and West Palm Beach. And what we do is essentially a few different things. So I think almost everyone knows estate planning, right? Your wills, your trusts, your durable powers of attorney, and things like that. The Medicaid planning side is what's less well known and less well understood, where we are able to take people who need assistance paying for home health care, assisted living facility care, or skilled nursing facility level of care. And we can take these folks who have too much by way of income or who have too much by way of assets, and we can legally and ethically protect those things and still get them qualified for Medicaid. They do not have to wait 5 years. They do not have to sell their house. Everyone says, well, what about the 5-year look back period? And maybe we'll get into this more a little bit later on, but the 5-year look back period doesn't mean you can't do anything for 5 years. It just means you can't gift things away. So we're working with people, again, who want care now or within the next few months, then they don't have, if they had to wait 5 years to do anything, my job wouldn't exist. All my clients need care now. They don't need care within 5 weeks. So, when we are protecting their assets, essentially what we're doing is we're giving them now, instead of going broke first before they naturally qualify for Medicaid, now they can have something that enhances the quality of their life, because it's always good to have access to more resources than to give everything away. And then when they pass away, we make it a little bit more likely that they'll have something to pass on to their heirs. So again, Jason Neufeld, Elder Needs Law, pleasure to be here as always, Gary, and happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you, my friend. Amanda.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
My name is Amanda Kulix, and I work with the Area Agency on Aging. You've heard from Diana Bruno from our helpline, but I am here to talk about a different program called SHINE. It stands for Serving Health Insurance Needs of Elders, and our focus is providing free and unbiased Medicare counseling. We do that through a dedicated network of volunteers. We help individuals understand their benefits, make choices and changes if they need that, and advocate to Medicare on their behalf in situations like appeals and grievances. We help them do that the right way the first time, so they don't just keep on bouncing back and forth between programs. So we also help people find benefits they might be qualified for that they might not know about that are Medicare related. And we do that also through the Benefits Enrollment Center at the Area Agency on Aging. It's a second grant, but we're kind of partners that helps with any benefit, any of the 5 core benefits beneficiaries are eligible for, we could potentially help them apply for.
Thank you. Wow. Another amazing panel. We appreciate everybody's involvement. Marsha, the mental health challenges that we must be facing during COVID, are they different? Are they more extreme, or is it just the same as normal?
Well, it is an increasing problem, and it will continue to be even when we are past that, whatever it is, when they're, quote, trying to get back to normal. There are going to be significant long-lasting effects from this. And now I lost track of my thought of what you were asking me. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, is there
I do remember, Gary, I'm sorry, that the statistics are showing that the suicide rates are gone down, which is very interesting. Of course, statistics are always, changeable and all, but the substance use and abuse problems are going up. And again, like I said, yes, there is an increased need for mental health services. I don't know that people are yet reaching out for that. And that's why it's going to be a long lasting problem, even when, quote, we're back to normal. But if I may add, there is a positive out of this pandemic.
I was just going to ask.
Thank you. Yeah. That is the fact that people are becoming more accustomed to this virtual format. And for a caregiver who cannot leave their loved one at home, this provides the opportunity to engage from your home without that excess time that it would require to travel. As a 501c3, Mental Health America has many resources, including support groups and art classes and wellness classes and all of these things going on virtually, open to anyone at no cost. We also have the Seth line, warm line, where anyone can call in if they're just feeling lonely or isolated. There's also an array of other community activities. Baptist Hospital has a wonderful week filled with classes and lectures and cooking classes and exercise classes, etc., that allows the caregiver to forget about life for a while, like Billy Joel says. Allow yourself to become distracted. And you know what, Gary, I'll share a personal story. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm allowing myself to become distracted. I have recently become a caregiver for a very short period of time to one of my family members, one of my furry family members who will be leaving us this week. And so this, I thought, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Yes, I can do it, because this is a moment when I've taken myself away from that and I have my thoughts on something else, and it's okay. So MHA can help you to identify these resources. All you need to do is ask.
Thank you. I'll ask Victoria the same question. What is the Alzheimer's Association seen different, positive and negative through this strange year we've all been living in?
Thank you for that. And yes, it's definitely been quite a transition for our constituents, our employees, and our volunteers. But we have definitely seen, because we all know that this pandemic has brought in a little bit more of that social isolation. And so we here at the association have been striving to really make sure that our constituents are as remaining engaged as possible, because we know that the more individuals with the disease are socially isolated, that their cognition can decline. So we have been, like I mentioned, right from the beginning of last March, we transitioned all of our support groups, caregiver and early stage support groups, right from the beginning, to telephonically and virtual. And we have seen a mixed review about it. There are the individuals who love the opportunity to still be able to join the support groups. And like Marcia said, it's opening up that availability of, they don't have to worry about getting someone to be at their house to stay with their loved one. And so it gives them a little bit more flexibility in that sense of saying, you know what, they might not even have a scheduled time when they're available, but knowing that we have caregiver support groups every day throughout the day that they're able to join. So it doesn't even have, they can just say, you know what, I'm free for the next hour. Let me see if there's a support group available. So it really has opened up that arena for individuals, as well as for even our educational programs. Many times they might not have been able to make it to that in-person event of, getting the ride there, or it doesn't really fit in with their schedule. And again, now that it's virtual, there gives them that little bit more of that wiggle room to say, you know what, I can make that program. But even if they're not able to make the live program, we have it on our on-demand platform. So again, it's really giving people this opportunity to get the resources that they need at their fingertips.
Less excuses not to take them and more opportunity to take them. It does seem to be that people are more accepting of virtual support, from telehealth to virtual support groups. These are things I didn't hear much about in 2019.
Right. And it's definitely something moving forward, even as, like we said, one day when we go back to normal, this will definitely be an aspect we will keep, because we do see that it is beneficial to many people. So that way, hopefully one day we'll have in-person events, support groups, as well as the virtual world, to really cater to everyone and anyone.
And that's right. If you feel they're equal, you're like, well, I really can't get out of the house, but I don't want to miss the support group. So maybe 2022, you'll say, oh, I'll do it virtually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm going Wednesdays and Fridays. So that's really, I haven't thought about that. It's a nice way to mix the two.
That's great.
Excellent. Amanda, it's on you now.
I think I see a question in the chat asking about 5 core benefits that I referenced.
My only job. I got to leave now. It's my only job. That's
Well,
the only thing I have to do.
I'll answer that question first, and then I'll connect with you guys about Shine and Medicare and what we do in that aspect. But what I kind of want to highlight for you is the 5 core benefits I was referencing are from the BEC, and that's a different grant, but it's food assistance, Medicare savings program, which helps beneficiaries pay for their Part B premiums. It is something called Extra Help. It's also known as the low income subsidy, and it helps seniors and adults with disabilities who have high cost drugs afford their Medicare Part D premiums, lower the overall cost of their drugs. It essentially, if any of you have high cost medications, which I know some of you do, it essentially takes you to catastrophic coverage day 1 of the year, and it opens up special enrollment periods for you. So it's a super useful benefit. We also help beneficiaries who look qualified apply for full Medicaid. That's full health care insurance. There's not a ton of Medicare beneficiaries who fit the criteria for that. And then we refer out to the fifth benefit, which is LIHEAP. It's Electric Energy Assistance Programs. And so there's a local organization called Community Partners, which actually helps beneficiaries screen for that and apply for that.
Excellent. Wow. That's amazing. Every time I turn around, there's more amazing stuff you guys are doing.
Yeah,
So-
and we love that program because it really opened up a door for us to be able to help more people who are already coming to us for Shine services. Yeah.
So with regards to Shine, which I know is Shine and Ship all over the country, it's the long-term care, the insurance is so confusing and confounding sometimes. It's really nice to have somebody you can call and say, help. But what, again, the question being, what positive and what negatives have you seen from the conversations you're having with caregivers past March of 2020?
So generally speaking, caregivers are interceding on their parents' behalf virtually. We have had to go from face-to-face interactions to over the phone or via Zoom. And we're limited in the capacity of how many of our volunteers are doing Zoom, but there are always usually appointments available. If any of you are Zoomers and would like to jump on a call with a counselor, we have people ready to do that. You just have to provide an email address. But what I've found that caregivers often need help with is just discerning the maze of Medicare. And so they're wanting to advocate for their parents and help them make wise financial decisions about premiums they're paying, about the cost of drugs they're paying. And so sometimes they're coming in right at the inception and then having to learn the whole program to advocate for their parents. And they sometimes just stumble around in the dark until they find us so that we can help walk them through that. So if any of you ever have a Medicare question that comes up, like, I highly encourage you. It's always helpful, no matter how educated you are and how much you know about a topic. And it's not, I call this the great equalizer. Medicare is confusing for everyone. And it's always helpful with a complex and confusing healthcare situation to have just a second pair of eyes on it, especially somebody who's been looking at it every day. And our volunteers are choosing to do that. They are committing it to at least 2 years. Many of them have been with the program longer than I've been out of high school. Okay.
Don't push, lady.
Yeah, they're wonderful. And then a lot of them are just, they surrender any health insurance licenses. They can't have any kind of secondary bias or agenda. They're showing up to their appointments and giving time just to make sure people get through this and they have help.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. And then my friend, Jason, same question. What are you hearing from caregivers that are different from the last 14 months, better and worse?
I have a theory as to why I have seen a significant uptick in my business recently. And I have
because you're good.
Well, there's that,
yeah.
But I have no real data to back this up. But I think that in the beginning of the pandemic, folks who really needed things like physical and occupational therapy stopped getting those services. And because they stopped getting those services because they didn't want to go into an outpatient facility and they were nervous to let people in their home, they deteriorated. And they got to the point where they needed more help with long-term care. And so they went from some level of independence to significantly less independence. And so we're seeing, whether it's the adult children who are out of state or even those who are trying to help mom and dad out as best they can, coming to me saying, we got to qualify for these Medicaid programs, because if we don't, we need help. We need a lifeline. So I'm seeing a lot of that. I wanted to add one addendum to what Amanda was talking about, that, first of all, Shine is such a phenomenal resource. And I call it like one of the best kept secrets and I don't know why it's such a secret, but people don't know it exists and they should, because Shine is phenomenal. But Amanda touched on these Medicare savings programs, which is kind of a lesser known Medicaid program. Medicaid's not one thing, Medicaid's lots of things. And I work with people who don't, and Amanda said, there's some people who don't qualify for these programs, and some of them are difficult to qualify for. That's another service that elder law attorneys such as myself provide. We take people who don't yet qualify for these QMB Medicare savings programs, and we can get them qualified. So those are my, not necessarily folks who are in need of long-term care, but they're my diabetics or my cancer patients who have these really expensive therapies and their Medicare is not covering everything. Well, if we get them onto QMB and the extra help program, we can get all this stuff covered. So I wanted to throw that out there, that even people don't initially qualify, there are ways to get them qualified.
Yeah, and so just as a FYI to any of you who are hearing the words QMB, that's a tier of the Medicare Savings Program, and it's doing a job that the rest of the tiers aren't. And you have to be quite low income to qualify for it unless you have long-term care Medicaid. And so the important thing for you to know is in the tier of QMB, it comes in and acts almost like a supplement in that it pays that 20% co-insurance. So beneficiaries who have those high costs really benefit from that program. Yeah, thanks for giving us props. We're very happy to take it.
You know, I'm not sure this is viable, so I'm just going to throw it out there because I trust all of you guys to give me a raspberry if it isn't. What question would you really like to hear come at you from this group sitting in their living rooms? You say, oh boy, I hope so. I hope that question gets asked, because that's a question a caregiver really needs to ask. And again, this may or may not make any sense. I've never asked this before, but hearing this conversation, it kind of occurs to me that there's always a fifth panelist, and it's the family caregiver. So I'll start with Marcia, but what question would you like to hear come from our attendees?
Actually, I'm fortunate that I was able to put in the question that I wanted to talk about. And I do want to also include that there is a great deal of isolation for everyone during this unique world that we're living in, but particularly for the caregivers. And when Victoria was talking about the Alzheimer's support groups, they are so critical for this population. However, what is also very critical is to allow this caregiver to participate in something that's not related to the health issue, whether it's Alzheimer's or the Heart Association is running caregiver support, depending on Cancer Society. They need to also be involved in other things, because they could have a large network of people who are also caregivers, and that kind of support is very valuable, but it can also just perpetuate the isolation because they are still with this group of caregivers and they are a caregiver. And I'm hoping that people can step out, for a portion of every day, if it's 5 minutes, if it's 20 minutes, step outside of that role of caregiver and just take a moment to enjoy yourself, to participate in something that brings you the motivation and the joy of life. Life is about being involved and having a sense of purpose and having a sense of accomplishment. And if you took 20 minutes to attend a class, then you have that accomplishment. So thank you, Gary.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad I asked this question. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of it. Victoria.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Marcia, because every support group, caregiver support group or early stage, one of my first questions to open up the group is, what have you done for yourself? Right? So what have you done to take care of yourself? Because again, right, a lot of times we feel the caregiver puts all that pressure and everything on themselves. So we need to really encourage, you have to take care of your health, your mental health, and by getting out there and doing something that you enjoy that's going to take your mind off of that caregiver role for that time being. Give yourself that respite time. Give yourself the love that you need to take care of yourself.
And virtually, it just adds the opportunity to do such a thing. Right. Otherwise, they might have to stay home with their loved one.
Exactly. So
it's a mental breather.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So yeah, of course, great to get connected with those other caregivers who can be your peers and walk and help you walk through this journey together. Because nothing better than having those individuals who understand what you're going through and to give you that support that you might not get from family or friends who might not quite understand what you're going through, but to also, of course, give yourself that respite care and get out there and do something that you enjoy for yourself.
That takes your mind off of the things that you're discussing with your support group members, where you share that together.
Exactly.
What other interests did you have before caregiving? What other interests do you have that you don't, that you something to care for you for a moment a day?
Exactly. And not to neglect yourself. And I know that sometimes many, especially during this pandemic, we've, been stuck at home and you feel like you might not be able to do the things you always enjoyed, but to alter it somehow, just to, and give yourself the self-care. I know we've been scared to go to doctors maybe, but right, with all that telehealth that's out there and everything, to make sure the caregiver is caring for themselves, not missing their doctor's appointments because they're so focused on their loved one. So making
Right.
sure that your health is staying as a top priority as well, mental and physical health.
Job one for any caregiver to do what they need to do for their loved one is to care for themselves in these ways. And it's not selfish, it's selfless actually, because you're saying, I'm going to take a moment decompress. I don't know what the word was I was looking for. I could have gone anywhere with that. And do what I need to care for me, and maybe take that a doctor's appointment that I've been, even with telehealth, that I've been avoiding, because what happens if you fall apart, and who's going to step in and care for both of you? So these are great answers to that question.
And Gary, also to look for moments of joy, when you're downtrodden because you're a caregiver, because we're going through the pandemic, because all of this is happening, because we're languishing, to look for that moment of joy, to find, and it may not last a long time. You can't look at a beautiful sunny day and have it make you feel good all day long, but you can look out on a sunny day and say, oh, look how beautiful the sky is. And for 30 seconds, have a moment of joy. And those moments of joy add up to a more joyful life.
Thanks. Jason, same question. I don't remember the question, so hopefully you do.
So, right. So what I remember the question being is, what question do you think you wish the consumers, the folks in the group would be asking? And as this is a caregiver group, I think there's a question that I think caregivers are often embarrassed to ask. And so I'm going to ask it for you. And I'm going to set it up. And the setting is, I care for my loved one because I love them. And I don't expect to get paid for it, but this is a full-time job, or at least a part-time job. And I have other things going on in my life. And maybe I'm even having trouble paying my own bills as a caregiver, because instead of working a full-time job, I have to be home with mom, dad, uncle, friend, whoever it is. And so the question that I think should be asked more often is, can I get paid for this, even if my loved one has no money with which to pay me? And the answer is yes. And it's not very well known. And once we get someone qualified for Medicaid, there is an option called the participant directed option. And that's where, instead of hiring an agency that contracts with Medicaid, which is one option, that's the option most people pick, is you go through an agency that's already on the plan. You can pick anyone you want, including spouses, including children, including other family members, as long as they are legally able to work in the United States and can pass a level 2 criminal background check. You can select whoever you want to be your caregiver. And so when you get approved for Medicaid, you are approved for a certain number of hours, right? It might be 15 hours a week, it might be 40 hours a week. Usually it's kind of in between those two. Well, that can either go to an agency or it can go to someone who you know and trust and who's already there doing this work. So I throw that out there because it's another program that a lot of people don't realize exists. They don't realize it's an option. And I think it's important for people to know.
How do we get that option? How do we reach out, and who's viable for that option?
So the same people who I am working with to get them. So if you're already on the Medicaid waiver program, that's the one that pays for either care in an assisted living facility or care at home. So if you're choosing to have care at home, then if you're already eligible for Medicaid, you just ask your caseworker and you say, listen, I don't want any of these agencies coming in. I want this person, and they should give you the paperwork. And what I'll do is I'll put in the chat when I'm done talking, a link that kind of talks more about it, and kind of there's some paperwork there that it'll link to some paperwork that you can fill out if you'd like. Or people come to me because they don't qualify for Medicaid. They have too much by way of income or assets. And once we're done legally and ethically protecting what they have and getting them qualified, then we're educating our client how to go through the process. When you enroll in Medicaid, after we've done our magic, here's how you can direct who you want to get paid for your caregiving.
That's brilliant. And I would suggest everybody put their, I know that some of you guys have put your contact information in the chat. I've already been asked about that because the follow-up is really important. And Amanda, I don't think I asked you this question. What do you wish we'd asked?
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of caregivers are already thinking it, and it's a little worm niggling at the back of their brain, and they're saying to themselves about their parents' health insurance or their loved one's health insurance, you know, what do I not know that I do not know? Right? They just get the bills, they just get the end result, and they go, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And they feel responsible and overwhelmed. And so we know that in the life of a caregiver, they go through cycles of, being okay and feeling on top of it, and then just having everything crash down at once, right? So my words to caregivers right now would just be, hey, reach out at that upswing, touch base with us, and we have education courses you can attend. You don't have to do a one-on-one session if you don't want to. You can go to a Medicare Basics. We do Facebook Lives, we do Zoom presentations, and we can offer that to you just as a general education. And then as you get interested or curious about your parents' benefits, it's wise to start reaching out earlier rather than later before there's a problem, so that you have a framework for how things work, and then you're more likely to be less overwhelmed with it when it hits, when that bill comes, when that Medicare summary notice comes. And so we are always just helping you safeguard, the pitfalls, the things to watch out for. So we offer just a Medicare explanation. We can break it down into bite-sized pieces if you actually have a problem that's complex. A favorite saying of mine is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we take it and we say, okay, well, they've got this health condition, they have this networking issue, this out-of-pocket expense is a problem, but let's zone in on the most important first, and then you can just do one thing a day and then schedule another appointment with us. We do follow-up appointments. So do that before it's like, okay, now I have to choose my parents' health insurance, or now I have to help my loved one make a choice, because then it puts so much pressure on you. So just like some words of support and encouragement is, we're here to help you and guide you through that process. And the earlier you reach out, the better for you.
Thanks.
Gary,
Jason?
can I ask a question
Go ahead.
of Jason? Thank you. So Jason, you spoke about this wonderful way of the caregiver getting paid for that, but does that affect the family's income, and then possibly, if it's a spouse, bump out the person from the program?
So if you are on the Medicaid long-term care program and your spouse is not, the spouse's income actually has no impact on so Medicaid, again, it's important to understand Medicaid is different things. There's not one Medicaid program. Medicaid's like 14 different programs in Florida. I work with 3 of them. The Medicaid waiver program and the Medicaid ICP program are the ones that have long-term care components. That's where, now, if both spouses need Medicaid, then both of their incomes are taken into consideration. But only one spouse, the second spouse can have unlimited amounts of income and will not disqualify.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I should say, if income is ever an issue, we have ways of dealing with that too. We have plenty of people who receive too much by way of income because they have their Social Security, plus their pension, plus their 401k distributions, whatever. And we can use something called a qualified income trust to filter their excess income through. So income should never be an issue as far as people qualifying for benefits. They just may have to see an attorney first to get the correct planning done.
Thanks. Jason, you kind of hit a nerve with the payment for people helping on Medicaid. What, do we contact you about that?
Yeah, if they're anywhere in Florida, I work with everyone all across Florida. If they're interested in learning more about that program, and I'll put I didn't do that yet. I'll put my contact information in the chat.
I appreciate it. Victoria, do me a favor. Tell me why it's important for me as a caregiver to go to support group. Isn't that just a bunch of people sitting around whining about what they're going through? What does that help me? I'm being facetious, because support groups are wonderful. But for anybody who may not be interested and understand the value, talk about the value.
Okay. And yes, and exactly. I think a lot of people kind of feel that way of support groups of, oh, it's just going to be whining and people complaining. But we really do try to gear it towards a aspect where you're able to connect with your peers. So someone else who is able to help you through this journey. And so that you know that you're not alone. Because I think that's one of the biggest problems our caregivers have with Alzheimer's and dementia. It can make you feel very isolated, regardless of the pandemic. It can make you feel very isolated and not everyone understands. And their loved one might be pulling away from other social events as well. So our support groups for caregivers are really more geared about that peer-to-peer conversation and connection. So that way, when you are encountering a struggle of, I can't get my loved one to take a shower. It seems to be an argument every day. You know what? I'm going to go around the room and say, hey, Amanda, didn't you have that problem last month? How about, can you tell Marcia a little bit of how you work through that? So it's giving you different tips and ideas on how to work with your loved one, giving those maybe the individuals who are new to this disease journey and partnering with those individuals who have been doing this for 10, 15 years. So again, giving that insight and feedback and just being able to connect with others that are going through it. We laugh, we cry, they're good to go through all of the emotions. But I think it's the most important for people to know that this is a journey. It's not a quick disease usually. So it's knowing that there's people out there and you want to become a master student of this disease. Because you even say there's no experts in this field. Even myself and my coworkers here at the association, we're not experts. We're master students because we're constantly learning new information. And what better way of joining a support group where you're able to hear from those individuals who have gone through it maybe already, or maybe haven't experienced it yet, but saying, oh, you know what? I never even thought that could possibly happen, but to be prepared for it in that future. So there's a preparation, getting that feedback from others who have gone through it maybe, and getting those local resources. Sometimes they'll be looking for a new neurologist, or they might need an elder law, or they might need help with the Medicaid system. And that way someone can, besides the facilitator or the program managers, hearing from your peers saying, oh, you know what? I worked with this great gentleman, Jason. And so that way it's that word of mouth. We trust those individuals that we get to know. And so it's a bonding experience.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to jump in and say that as a person who goes out and has for the last 5 years presented to support groups versus the rest of the population, I can tell you that people who are in support groups are some of the most well-informed Medicare beneficiaries or advocates for beneficiaries. And that's because of that peer-to-peer relation. You are becoming a master student on more than one level.
I always say that the secret sauce to the conferences, as we've done so many in-person events over the years, is that every caregiver has a piece of the puzzle that some other caregiver in that room needs. And unless they involve them, see themselves in a trusted environment, open up, ask a question, they're not going to know that that answer's in that room. You know, we have a thing we like to call stump the panel, where caregiver raises their hand, run around with the mic, walk up to them, and they'll ask a question. And I don't care if it's doctors, attorneys, leader, you know, in all fields. There's a moment where they'll just sit there and go, huh. In that moment, 5 caregivers will raise their hand and go, here's how I did it. Here's how I did it. Here's how I did it. So it's basically creating your family of choice. You have your family, you love most of them, but this is your family of choice. And I give you my favorite story about support groups. It happens to be for people living with cancer, not necessarily a caregiver. I was living in North Carolina, and my dad took down here in South Florida, lived in North Miami Beach, took ill in 1990, passed away in 91. And towards the end of that period, he was, well, I would be on the phone with him every week, and he'd tell me what he'd tell me, but he didn't want to worry me or bother me, so he wasn't really telling me anything. And I always say, go to support group. And he'd go, you know, I always say my dad broke 4 psychologists, you know, he'd go to those meetings and he'd break these people. They'd run away and never be in the business anymore. But anyway, I remember I was sitting in my living room in Durham, North Carolina, watching NBC Nightly News, and Tom Brokaw was doing a little 5-minute piece at the end. This is how I learned about the internet. He always used to do a little piece at the end about some new stuff. And information came out about how incredibly important it is for people living with cancer to go to support groups. And they did B-roll, which is the video cutaway, to emphasize what Brokaw was saying, of a support group that was in a church down the street from my dad's house. And there he was in the support group. You have 5-second B-roll. He had a cane, and he would slap the cane down, laughing uproariously about what somebody was saying. And that was NBC's, you know, visualization of how good support groups was my dad, who kept poo-pooing it to me. And I called him up. I said, Dad, Tom Brokaw had to tell me you're going to support group? And he said, you know, I obviously, and I love your mom. I love my kids, but there are things I can't tell you, things I don't want to tell you, things I can't go through with you, that you're not going through it. And I said, go, absolutely. And at his funeral, everybody from that support group who could be there was there. So he created his own little family of choice. At the same time, he adored his primary family. And I think that's what caregiving is all about, is getting the wisdom where you get the wisdom, get the trust, create the family of choice. And that's my long-winded way of saying, if you're not in a support group and it's appropriate for you, get thee to a support group.
And
Also,
I think
Gary,
it's important.
I'm sorry, you were saying about how your father was laughing, and it's great that they showed that a support group isn't a downer kind of thing. And that's what you need to do, is also reach out to a support group member who you know can always tell you a good joke. It's always good to have a friend that you know can always tell you a good joke. You may not be real good friends with them. You might not see them because you don't really like to be with them that much, but you know that they're a good joke teller, and you can call them up and say, tell me a joke today.
Well, you're living through something together. You're, you know, and even after your caregiving is over, a lot of times I suggest people stay involved. You know, maybe a bereavement support group. Maybe, you know, don't listen to those people in their family who don't understand lovingly, but don't understand, who say, okay, now it's over, walk away, stop dealing with it. The process. This is a process that we're living through, no matter what the illness or disease our loved ones living with. So
and Gary, life is about perception. So if the perception is, oh, it's so burdensome, I'm taking care of if we can change our perception and see what a gift it is to be able to care for this person during this time, you know, particularly that happens with children and adult children and their parents. That special time to bond again together.
I just went through that, and I understand that vividly. That it does give, if you look at it that way, it gives you that opportunity to have a bonding time that you never would have had before. Okay, what's Jason's contact information? Obviously, it's in the chat. Oh wow, you're fast. It's right there. Is there a Zoom support group my sisters and I could join? Could you email me? Okay, you guys see it there. I love support groups and attend. See, that's what you want to hear. Bring your family to support group. We always call the conferences extremely large support groups. And I always say, if you like today and anything you learn from today, this is just an extremely large version of support group. You want to do this monthly, get thee to a support group. Well
And
led.
also, Gary, let me give another resource, caregiver.com, that has all the support groups listed and all the articles and all the products and all the stuff that a caregiver needs. You know that.
I've heard of them.
Caregiver.com?
Yeah, I've heard of them. So that's why we started caregiver.com as family caregivers, because in 94, 95, we didn't see what we needed out there. And so I appreciate the plug. So let's go to, obviously, if you guys have been with me before, I'm going to ask this question. Is there any wrap-up thing that anybody wants to talk about that I missed that you want to get across? Okay, wow, we did good. Take your time. I'll start with Amanda, because there you are. The one most important piece of advice you'd like to share with family caregivers, if they take nothing else away from the conversation, that piece of advice and your contact information.
I think that the one piece of advice has pretty much been shared over and over again by multiple people, and is that you don't have to do this alone. There is help. And as a person who became a caregiver for the first time this year with my family member, knowing that there's help out there helps me. So help yourself by knowing you're not alone, you're not in isolation. There's a network of people willing to help, and the SHINE program specifically can help you with some aspects of this that get overwhelming, which is healthcare. So, and my contact information, if you are someone writing it down, is the Area Agency on Aging's phone number at 866-684-5885. And if you missed that, I'll put it in the chat. And I am the only Amanda that works at the Area Agency on Aging right now, so it's super easy to ask for me. But in lieu of asking for me, go ahead and just inquire about a SHINE appointment, because the helpline is open from 8 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday, and they schedule our SHINE appointments. So they'll be able to connect you right away to a SHINE appointment.
Thank you. Yeah, SHINE's a great program. Victoria.
All right. So what I would really want to say is, we want individuals to know that the Alzheimer's Association is here, and we're here for the people living with the disease, as well as caregivers and family members. All too often we hear, "Oh, I wish I knew about you," when my loved one had Alzheimer's or dementia. So we want to make sure that people know of these resources while going through or before going through this journey. Because many times people wait till it's too late or after the fact. So we're here. That 24/7 helpline is always available. If you need to vent, if you just need someone to listen to you, we're available. To connect you with local resources. Like I said, we have our support groups, caregiver, early stage, as well as specialty groups. So kind of like on that topic of support groups, we want people to know, find the group that you're comfortable in. So as caregiver ones, we have gentlemen specific groups, LGBT, Spanish speaking groups. We have a plethora of specialized groups. So again, find the one that you're going to be comfortable with, and feel free to jump around too, find that right one.
Excellent. And I need to tell you that after my dad passed, about 2 years later, my grandfather and grandmother both took ill with everything from Alzheimer's, stroke, diabetes, cancer. Doctors loved them, not the insurance companies. But when my grandfather was dealing with Alzheimer's, that was the one. We didn't know how to adjust to that, how to deal with that. And I walked into the Alzheimer's Association on Biscayne Boulevard, that in Miami, and knocked on the door and sat down with the care manager, who I know to this day. And I felt for the first time in those period of months that the weight was off my shoulders, that I was someplace where somebody understood what I was going through. And you guys held my hand through and my family's hand through that whole process. So yeah, I'm an advocate. Ms. Pink.
Well, I think that while Alzheimer's Association has some tremendously valuable resources 24 hours a day for the helpline, I also want to remind people about 211. No matter where you are in the country, you can dial to, well, unless you're in a really rural area, but mostly every part, 211 and get resources. But particularly also, if you feel like it's just come down to, and you're in a crisis situation, call 211. I want to remind people that MHA produces the Connections Guidebook, which has resources more specifically for behavioral health and social services. That is available to purchase for a hard copy, to view a PDF at our website, or to use the interactive mobile website, which is all included in the chat. My last message is, once again, it's okay not to be okay. And if you're not okay, it's okay to ask for help. And thank you for sharing with me today a moment of distraction and joy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's lovely to see you guys. One day soon, hopefully we'll all be in the same room together. Dr. Neufeld.
Yeah, all this talk about Alzheimer's and dementia reminds me of a few things. The first is that my goal is to give people access to resources that they didn't know they could get access to, such as Medicaid before they're naturally eligible. And a lot of people don't realize all the different benefits that come with Medicaid. But before I can get, that's kind of step two. Step one is the folks, when they come to me, have to have the ability to actually do planning. And so when I'm thinking about someone coming in with Alzheimer's, one of the first questions I ask is, do you have a durable power of attorney? And I tell people this all the time, of all the fancy planning and trusts and things that I do, the one document that I do that will provide my client with the most benefit is a well-drafted, durable power of attorney, because they are not all the same. It is not just one form that, like, you can't just say, I give this person the ability to do everything, so help me God, and that's the end of it. They have to be very specific. And the problem with that is when you download these free forms off the internet, or if you go to a lawyer who just kind of does anything and is not really plugged into what's going on here, what you find is people get a power of attorney that is good for some things and not good for other things. So they might be able to go to the bank, they might be able to sell a house, they may not be able to do certain transactions that we need to do in a long-term care planning context. So I say that, that's me putting on my estate planning attorney hat, saying if you don't have these documents, while you have the mental cognitive ability to sign these things and understand what it is you're signing, it's so important, because if you don't, and then you, or more likely your loved one, comes to me years down the line when you don't have the cognitive capability of doing these things or understanding what's going on, well, now we're hamstrung. And now, instead of relying on the person you trust, I have to go to a judge through a guardianship proceeding and got to get the judge's permission to do whatever it is we need to do. It just makes things more expensive and makes things more complicated. So I encourage people to take those documents seriously, because if I can't, I want to help, but I need to deal with someone who has the ability to enter into these transactions. So can't get to step two before we cross off step one. So I want to leave folks with that. Estate planning is incredibly important. And even if it's not with me, that's cool. Go to an attorney who focuses on elder law, when you're thinking about these issues, because other attorneys, while they may produce a fine document, they're not thinking about the things that, you know, myself and my elder law colleagues are thinking about. So hope that's valuable information to you all.
Not
And-
only value, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I'm good.
Not only valuable, but I am a living proof. I'm really 22 years old. I'm a living proof of that, because one of my mom's dearest friends, her and her husband, started a company, ran it extremely successful for 50 years. He passed away. Then a few years later, you know, she started developing cognitive issues, and tried to get them to get the right documents. They had somebody out of town having their power of attorney, stuff that out of the state. I mean, stuff that really you're not supposed to do, and none of it held up. And she, you know, fell into if you're wealthy and you're widowed in some parts of the country, the sharks just circle, and the sharks circled. And I happen to know some of the right folks at those days to talk to, and her stockbroker company actually called an attorney, said something's really wrong here, but we still need to go to court, still need to go to probate. So it was, Jason, it was horrible. It was, I shake thinking about it, because all we wanted to do was keep her safe. And if they would have signed those papers, they didn't even sign it before he passed, when he knew he was ill. It's just a way of thinking. If they would have signed those papers, it would have been nothing to take care of this and save their estate and keep her safe. But it was at least a year or 18 months of courts and judges and horrible this and that. So I am living proof that you need to have this paperwork signed, put away while you're still cognitively able to do it. So there. Thank you, guys. Somebody said I have caregiver.com bookmark. Thank you, and thank you. Are there specific Zoom meeting links you can email? Actually, we're doing these Zoom events all over the country. We did New Haven, we did Broward, we're doing Fort Worth next month, and up to Treasure Coast. And from some of the responses I've seen today, I would suggest actually joining us at those events. Go on caregiver.com, sign up to the free weekly newsletter, because everything I always say, everything I learned from caregivers at the events, I share with other caregivers who they'll never meet in cities they'll never go to, through the newsletter. So I'm still able to do that with the virtual events. And join us at some of the other events, even if it's not in your area, because there's, every time you're talking to caregivers and caregiver advocates, there's lessons to be learned. So the other thing is, I want to say, our Ageless Innovations Joy for All Pussycat, I can't show it to my dog because he gets mad, will be raffled and sent. One of our attendees who are here today will be the winner of that. And if they want to keep their name anonymous, we're happy to do that. If not. And that'll be done by early next week. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. God bless you for all you do for your care, for your loved ones. Thank you for our advocates on both panels, and for David, for understanding the value of interacting and supporting and asking caregivers what we need, as opposed to just throwing us things and say, okay, go, this is what you need. And as I always end every event, a little ditty. I'm so glad we had this time together. And anybody of my age knows what that is. Anybody younger than that, just say, okay, boomer. Thank you, guys. I love you all. And one day soon, we'll be in the same room together again. God bless you.